Well, good morning. It is. Oh, I'm sideways. Ah, that feels better. Um, it is the 27th of February. I have moved away from Lake Boca up the canal to the next lake. Can't remember. Parks on either side. Apparently, there's a dinghy space over there to get out. I jumped out yesterday, going around the corner there. This park is pretty much closed off, somewhat. The water's, well, the ground is a little bit greener because there's a little bit more life than just the sandy dregs from the other lake. Here we are. Still in shallow water. Getting ready to go to shore and check out this little park and see if there's an easy way for me to get myself to shore every day for the next week to go to work. I think I'm going to start right on that beach. We shall see. Dinghy's set up, ready to go. Left over from yesterday. Put a bilge pump in, which I did not leave connected because I don't want it to drain the battery. And then it rained yesterday, or last night. So it's got some water in it, and that's okay. I always look at the wrong side. I don't know why. All right. Well, I've got a table planned if I can find the space. If I don't go to work tomorrow, there's the lens. Aha. I'm going to put something next to it so I have a reminder. Excuse me. The beer is delicious. By the way, not a paid promotion. I highly endorse the Hawaiian Lion Coconut Coffee Porter from the local Big Top in Sarasota, Florida. Quite delicious. Quite strong, which means one is plenty. Quite delicious. I should eaten ahead of time. Anyway, Lake Wyman was less than ideal. Lots of cool beach space. There's a boat that's up on the dry. Looks like it came ashore. Has a bunch of stuff in it. A bunch of people climbed through, went through it already. I looked in, got weirded out, and decided to leave it alone. So, who knows what it is. There is an 8 horsepower Honda motor in it, but I think I'm going to leave that alone. Because that just seems to me, well, it's piracy, for one thing, which in and of itself I'm not opposed to in certain circumstances. Very certain circumstances. However, these circumstances, every ounce of my being screamed, don't go in, don't bother, get off the boat as soon as possible. So I did. I've learned to listen to those instincts. Sometimes they're really good. I have learned while boating, like for instance coming into my first lock by myself, alone the first time with my 30-foot catamaran, wondering if I was going to be able to succeed in getting through the lock with my one motor, because every time you accelerate, or every time you try to move forward, every time you accelerate from a stop, the initial thrust is toward the starboard. So, starboard tide in the dock, it takes 15, 20 feet of movement before the rudder really engages with the water enough to allow it to start having steerage control. It's better with both rudders down, or not rudders, both drop keels down. If the drop keels aren't down, have fun steering. It's more of an idea, more of an intention and a feeling rather than anything definite. But if your keels are down, you can have steerage in a few feet. Without the keels down, you're basically just directional from motor, wind, and current, and play with that as you will. And of course, being that I'm playing with that from holding the motor and steering it by hand at the motor without any throttle or neutral or transmission control. Let's just say that some of the adventures have been a little bit more adventurous than others. We'll leave it at that.
The lesson that I learned is that when everything inside of you puckers, but you have to do it anyway, you use that pucker factor to double check yourself. Is it going to work? What are my margins? How close can I cut it? What am I actually going to do? What's my plan? And just follow that plan and then modify that plan as it happens in the moment as you go forward. My first time was actually pretty easy. I motored in. I calculated when it was the best time to cut the motors. I cut the motors and drifted in slowly, grabbed onto the side ropes, and used those to stop myself. And I ended up with one forward and one aft, one in each hand, amidships during the transition, and it was fine. All 4 times I've been through the locks now by myself. So, yeah, the pucker factor matters, but that's what I learned. And discerning how important it is to you when that pucker factor comes in to what you're doing. At one point, I was right after getting my boat, literally first time coming down, came through the locks with somebody else. That somebody else, we were waiting for the locks, and he was on the starter and the controls, and I was down at the motor, still learning how to choke it properly to get it to run right. And it had died, and we were drifting into shore. And we were literally a foot and a half offshore when I finally got that thing running. And, we didn't go ashore, we didn't crash, nothing bad happened. But yeah, there's definitely a pucker factor there. And his remark afterwards was that he was amazed that I could stay so calm in that situation. And I was like, well, listen, you do one thing, you do the next right thing. What needs to happen next? Is it happening? No. What needs to happen to fix it? Okay, fix it. Okay, make it happen. Step 1, step 2, step 3. Do not lose sight of the end goal. Stay focused. And if you start freaking out over time and everything else, stop yourself. Take a deep breath. Recognize that it's not the end of the world 99% of the time. And then do the job, whatever it is. On that note, the island was full of adventures. There was a boardwalk at one point in time. Looks like a hurricane took part of it out, and looks like the city came through and tried to take out the rest of it, or miscreants or something. Definitely seems like chainsaw or skill saw. Just snipping each one at the raised mark all the way back to the park. They have quadrants across canals, floodplains. It's basically a mangrove habitat. And so to protect that, they had a boardwalk where everybody could walk out and go to these nice little pavilions and picnic spaces and such like that. Well, those all disappeared. All the boardwalks are gone. So walking the beach to get back is doable, but not at all tide states. And, well, it is at all tide states, but you're going to get wet. And not with a bicycle. And so I went across the river across the channel to there's a golf course that has a little peninsula area, and it's a public space, and you know, I put my dinghy over there, and it was high tide when I came in, and I was able to get the bike out and able to get my stuff out relatively easily, able to tie up relatively easily. It was shaded, which means my solar panel does not have maximum input, which will have an effect over the course of the week, because that travel distance was almost half the charge on the battery. So after 3 days I had 3 days of zero use, and then I had 1 day of medium heavy use. Wouldn't put it on heavy, wouldn't put it on medium. Right there in the middle. Anyway, so I depleted the battery, I would say 60% in that medium day use. So, medium heavy. Heavy day would be like depleting the battery. Medium day would be half the battery. A light day would be like going across now where I am, which you'll see in just a moment, and that is that's about 10 minutes. It's quick and short, and it's a quarter of a battery. Depends on how fast I want to go, really. And I'm of a mind to mosey most of the time. It allows me to think things through. See, here's some waves coming through. See, now those were coming from the other direction, so I don't quite have the angles and the scope right. But what I am going to have is to change it all when the tide shifts, or to put out a third anchor and have myself at 3 points locked in, which tides are getting higher and lower, so a greater separation of, or a greater height differential, greater delta H, would that be the appropriate term? I don't know if that's the appropriate term. Delta H? I know delta T is the change in temperature, so delta H seemingly would be, to me, the change in height. But I don't know. Anyway, I digress. And I'm just rambling on at this point. Yeah, so I walked around the island, or the park a few times. I actually walked across the first day, walked straight out, put my dinghy under one of the pavilions, locked it up, walked across, went to the Publix, which is directly across the park, which I had to hop a fence at a gate, or like 10 feet down from a gate that was locked. The thinking of how things transpire in our world blows my mind. I understand. You lock the gates to keep the miscreants out because the park is closed at night and you don't want people in there camping and sleeping because, God forbid, somebody with no place to go wants someplace relatively safe to rest their eyes and slumber. Set that aside for a moment. They haven't rebuilt anything at the park. The boardwalks, everything like that, the locks are locked. And rather than walk all the way around and all the way back, I hopped a fence. And I did the same coming back with my groceries and hopped the fence back. But I walked around a Publix, plenty of grocery stores and everything right there. Apparently the bridge that I'm going to be crossing, because I go out here, hang a left, go down a very short way, and then hang one light, and then hang a left, and go across the bridge, and there's like shopping center and everything I could need. So I'm guessing that's kind of the front of the mall, and that Publix is the back end of that mall. Which side do I look at? Still, I'll look directly into the center of the phone, not at the bottom of the phone, not at the top of the phone, or where the camera is. Anyway, I am feeling good about this move, and the islands were fantastic. There was relatively little roll compared to this, but the lack of ability to get out was, well, it was trying. So I did go across with my bike. I did pull my bike out of the boat. I did go for a ride. I did forget my keys. So I rode the bike as a bicycle, not as an electric bicycle, so zero assistance, and that was fine. I rode for a couple of miles, rode across the bridge, went over into town, saw like a downtown strip area there, and then got a phone call from my boss, or called my boss, I don't remember which, and then had a conversation and turned around and headed back to the boat. And sat on the boat for a while and looked at the maps and recognized that where I was not the best location. And while I was sitting there thinking about where I could lock up my bike on land and then go to it and just walk to shore, for God's sakes, from where I was, because I was, I don't know, 30 yards offshore. And at low tide, I had 2 feet beneath my keel, and at high tide, I had 4 feet beneath my keel. So I could have easily walked it at any time. Regardless, the ability to go to a dock and just pull it up onto the dock, easy peasy, and right away is much, much better. Not to mention that is directly across from where the police and the sheriff's department have their boats docked, so they're coming and going regularly. And so I went over there today and talked to one of them and got the rundown on where I'm at and what's going on, and chances are I will be fine. There's a slim chance they'll get a phone call from the guy that owns this piece of property, because apparently he owns the land under the water, but the water is free. So being on top of the water is free, but anchoring to the bottom, and apparently, according to the undisclosed officer that I spoke with, he's kind of a ne'er-do-well, and just really has fun messing with people, or kind of mean, or I don't know. Basically, if he gets word that you're here, he'll call and have you pushed off. So, from the officer, it was, if I don't get a phone call, you're fine. So, he's like, how long are you going to be here? Like 3 to 5 days? Maybe 6 if everything goes to shit? He just kind of chuckled, and he's like, all right, you should be fine. Last guy that was here for a month, or was here for almost 3 months before they received a phone call. So, I feel fairly confident. I'm going to have some peanuts to go with my beer, because that's what I have. What do? I work for peanuts. Salty. Anyway, cheers to everybody. I will be posting the next segment, which I recorded previous to this. I'm learning how to edit. Don't tell anybody. I will put that after this, and you'll all see where I am and have a decent idea of, I guess, where I am. Happy birthday. The beer's having an effect. I'm still looking at the wrong side of the damn phone. Cheers. Here's to me. Here's to you. Here's to all of thee and me. Damn, that's good. I just want to sip it, but I just want the flavor to engulf my tongue and my entire mouth and just sit with it for a moment. But my body says, oh, no, I want that in my belly as well. Swallow that and get some more. So this is why I limit myself to one. And I go ahead and get strong beer so that I can feel it. Although, let's be honest, I'm enough of a lightweight that one of any beer I generally feel. Cheers. Be well. On to the next segment. How to transition. Seen so many things. From the hand coming in, doesn't seem right. I don't know. We'll see.
All right, it is the 28th of February. My birthday is technically tomorrow and technically today, because technically it doesn't happen this year. So happy birthday to me. I have moved the boat up. Lake Wyman is down the road a little ways. Look at how clear that water is. It's about, it's about 5-6 feet right there. Oh, let's see. Got one anchor out here, holding me off sideways. I've got another anchor off here, holding me off sideways. Because all these waves come through at high speed. And this makes the wake really nice and mellow for the boat. Here it comes. Let's see. Try to give you a decent reference point here. I don't even know if you can tell if the boat's moving or not. It barely does. I mean, barely. Close into shore. Oh no, we could die. But comes up pretty quick. I came in at low tide and I still had a foot below me. And the tides are increasing, so should be okay. I'll keep an eye on it. Alright. This is where I am. There's my drone shot. Oh goodness. It's been a good day. Went for a walk. Had a conversation with the police officer. He brought his boat in. They dock, come on, straight across where I'm going to be docking my dinghy. So I feel fairly well protected. But yeah, happy birthday to me. Here we are. Just a mile up the way from where I was, around the corner, hop, skip, and a jump from Lake Wyman. Easier access for the bike and for me to get to shore and get to work and do all of that fun stuff. So I'll find out a little later if tomorrow's the start of the workday or if I'm going to do something else somewhere else. I have lived a life of uncertainty through most of it. And many people around me wonder and scratch their heads on how I can remain calm with so many unknowns happening. And the reality is, it's very simple. I try to control what little I can actually control, which is myself, my reactions to what happens, and to a limited extent, my surroundings. But outside of that, I have no control, so I just let go. Because what else are you going to do? Try to control the uncontrollable? Doesn't make sense to me. So I just let it go. And worry and bother is attachment to outcome. And so if you do have an attachment to a specific outcome, do your best to engineer that outcome is the most favorable probability to happen. And beyond that, there's not much else you can do. So that's my simple tricks for staying calm in a world of uncertainty. Because most of the time there's not a damn thing we can do about it. Pick up our pieces and put them back in our bag if we can find our bag, and pick ourselves up and keep going. And as we do that, if we can pick up those around us as well, all the better. If we can help other people, how did I say it earlier?
If I'm standing next to something and you're looking for it, I am going to grab it and hand it to you, or attempt to, or draw your attention to it. Because if we all make each other's lives easier, then everybody's life is easy. But sitting and watching somebody look for something, knowing that they need it, and it's right next to you, and not grabbing it and handing it to them, to me, kind of being an asshole. I mean, a lot of times we're in our moment, we're in our heads, we're not thinking about it, we don't realize it, this, that, and the other thing. But I guess it's just a situational awareness extending beyond what I'm doing to what others are doing as well. Not to micromanage, but to facilitate. So, I don't know. There's my 2 cents. Happy birthday. Next time around the sun, we'll see. I am going to go open a beer because it is now 3:40 in the afternoon. And I've waited long enough.